Good day, I am Prophetess Sade Gilmore. Let me go here with this word. Put down your idols. Because for many years, for the longest, and when I say we, I'm talking about the church, we have heard the word be preached. Put down your idols. Oh, God said, put down your idols. And when we have listened, but we have thought that we were so far from it. Oh, they ain't talking about me because I ain't got no idols. Oh, they must be talking about them. Or they must be talking about him or her. Can't be me. So let's talk about it. Are you sure you ain't got no idol? Because what is the definition for idol? And this is not according to Google. I usually go to Google, but today I'm going with God. What is an idol, Lord? Because you're asking us, you're preaching and sending words and telling us, put down our idol. So what is an idol according to God? As I was writing down an idol, what an idol is based off my experience when I uh, practiced idolatry back in July by honoring the words of my kingdom spouse over the words of God. That's when I clearly heard the Lord say, the Spirit of the Lord, anything that stop you from obeying God is an idol. So let's talk about that. Because as I was saying, I was writing down anything you put before God, anything you put over God. But that's when I heard the Spirit of the Lord say, anything that stops you from obeying God is your idol. Which lines up with what I did back in July. Because, and this is not to downplay my kingdom spouse, but the spot he was at back then is where I met him at. And instead of bringing him up, I joined in with him. What am I talking about? My kingdom spouse, maybe fornication was his idol. I'm just going to tell it. And so, of course, the Lord allowed me to be tested. I'm not even just going to blame it on him. He allowed me to be tested. He allowed the enemy to test me through my kingdom spouse the same way he allowed the enemy to test Adam through Eve. And I was the one that knew better more than him because I had, not to brag or boast, but I had been there with God. God had delivered me, had brought me out from Egypt, so I knew better. But, and that's not to say my kingdom spouse didn't. That is to say that God will hold you more accountable than a person that may not just be there with him fully. That's not saying he's winking at their sin like, okay. But there is to say, God ain't finna keep winking at your sin when you know better, okay? And so, as I said, my kingdom spouse began to talk. Well, even before we met up in person, my kingdom spouse was talking about SEX. And when the day came, we met up in person, led by the Spirit of God. I mean, he told me to come. I end up honoring his words over what God had told me to do. Not saying, I'm not talking about a commandment out the Bible. No, God had told me to get married. So I was to have waited, but I chose to, like I said, meet my kingdom spouse where he was at, meaning he wasn't up there with God yet. And I chose, and that's fine. God was using me to bring him up. But instead of bringing him up at that very moment, I chose to, how can I say, how they say, well, the Lord said he's finna send you into a land, but don't become like the people. Yeah, God sent me to a land and I became like the person. Right? So let's go here. Because as I said, for the longest, we, the church, have heard this word be preached, put down our idols, but we have thought to ourselves that it's not us that they're talking to. It's not us that God is speaking to. He's speaking to our neighbor because clearly they are the ones with the idol. And so we hear that word, whether it be preached online or preached at a church building. We hear that word, but then we return back home to our favorite sin, whether it's a man, woman, or male, or whether it's money, whether it's food, whether it's your children. whatever it is, whether it's fornication, whatever the idol is that's stopping you from obeying God. And you can say, well, how can your child stop you from obeying God? I'm glad you asked. Let me give you a perfect example. Because at the end of the day, you're just a steward. They don't belong to you. They belong to God, and He chose you to steward over them. So meaning you're just a manager. You're not the owner. You're just a manager, right? And so God tell you specifically for that child, oh, they're to not eat sweets, or don't get them no sweets on this certain day, or only get them sweets for in the morning time. But because your child come and say, "Mommy, can I have can I have a little Debbie cake, or can I have a cookie?" And knowing good and well, breakfast is over. You okay, Johnny? Okay, Susie Ann. Okay, boy, get it and go and sit down. But then God tell you that child not supposed to have no sweets, but only in breakfast time. You're making your child an idol, because an idol is anything that stops you from obeying God, and that right there is disobedience. But let's go on. Food. How can food be an idol? How can you make food? And I'm not talking about gluttony. No, 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 no. Because we have looked down on gluttony, but we never looked at food, period. Because food can be an idol. How? Because if it stop you from obeying God, God tell you to fast. God tell you don't eat on certain days. God tell you don't eat certain things, period. What you do, you either delay your obedience or you don't do it. When you on a fast, but you break it before it's time. So you, sir, ma'am, has an idol of food in your heart. You have made food an idol, and it's in your heart. Money. Come on, somebody. How can money be an idol? See, it's more than just a job. How can money be an idol? Because you chase it. That's why you do things when you don't have it for a little piece of change. How they say you do strange things for a little piece of change. That's why you do things to get it that's not pleasing in the eyesight of God. That's why when you don't have it, you antsy. Or you depressed. Or you sad. Oh, man, I can't be. Now, I ain't saying call yourself the B word, B-R-O-K-E, B-R-O-K-E, but you not okay with, you can't go without having it. It drives you. You gotta chase it. You gotta chase the bag. No, I can't be, When God said, don't worry. He said, don't worry about tomorrow. Right? It's time to put down our idols. Ask the Lord to search your heart. If there be anything you have made into an idol, knowingly and unknowingly, ask Him to reveal it to you. Ask Him to break the stronghold that He has over you. Because I'm telling you, God is a jealous God. A very jealous God. And when I was as I was writing this word, and let me pause right there for a minute, because for some it is sex. You done made sex a completely idol. That's why you can't obey God, and we can go there and label it as fornication. You done made it a complete idol. That's why you can't obey God and do what He's telling you to do. Ask the Lord to break the stronghold that He has over you, no matter how long it has been there. But let's go on, because as I was writing this word, preparing this word, the Lord flashed a vision before me, like a little tiny car. Picture a little tiny car, and you have a lot of people packed in it, and you right there trying to pack Christ up in that car along with your idols. That car represents your life, represents your heart. Christ don't want to share your heart with your idols. Stop trying to pack Christ. Well, God, you can fit in right here with money and sex and food. You can fit in with my job and with my children. You can fit in my heart right here. I'll share a piece of my heart with you. I'll give you a piece of my time. I can't give you all now because I got others to feed too. I got other idols other than you. God don't want to share your heart with your idols. He wants your whole heart. He don't want to share the piece of the room. He wants the whole room. The room is you. He don't want piece of your life. He wants your whole life. Matthew 22:37, we have been commended, whether you know it or not, to love God with all of our heart. So it's time to put your idols down. Get them out your heart so you can love God wholeheartedly. I am Prophet Shani Gilman.